שלום רב לצופים ולצופות של פסטיבל הקולנוע הרומני בישראל, מהדורת 2023. שמי איריס לקנר, אני אוצרת הפסטיבל והמנהלת, ואני שמחה לארח לצידי כאן את בוגדן ג'ורג'ה אפטרי, שהוא בימאי של אחד מהסרטים שאנחנו מציגים, לא מזוהה. אפטרי שהוא יליד פיאטרה ניאמץ, הוא תסריטאי, בימאי ומפיק שיושב כיום בניו יורק, שם הוא חי ויוצר את הבסיס לסרטיו. עד כה הוא הפיק 24 סרטים, כתב וביים 8, זכה במספר גדול מאוד של פרסים, והסרטים שלו משתתפים בכל 6 הפסטיבלים הגדולים ביותר לקולנוע בעולם, וגם מופצים בצורה נרחבת. על הסרט לא מזוהה שאנחנו נדבר היום, הוא קיבל את פרס הגופו, שזה האוסקר הרומני על התסריט, ואת פרס פיפרסקי, פרס המבקרים במסגרת פסטיבל טיף. הוא למד קולנוע באוניברסיטת קולומביה בניו יורק, סיים בהצטיינות, והיום הוא גם מלמד במקום. אז בואו נתחיל את השיחה, השיחה תתנהל בשפה האנגלית. אנטי פרומנשטה בונזיו בוגדן.
בונזיו איריס.
And now to our spectators who speak all different languages, we'll do it in English. I know that before there was cinema, there was the practice of law. You learned to become a lawyer in Yash, and after you finished your studies, you practice as a lawyer, a criminal lawyer, for a year. So how come you left that and decided to go to the cinema occupation, and did the fact that you were a lawyer for a year and you studied all that help you in any way for the script of this movie?
It's an interesting question, a question that I occasionally get. The truth of the matter is I never switched, because when I started on the path to become a lawyer, I knew from the very beginning that would be a temporary path for me, and I wanted to do cinema. I think I wanted to be a filmmaker since I was 15, 16.
Okay.
Then I realized that I don't want to start a film school when I'm 18. And now, after many years, and I've been teaching for 12 years, I realized it was a good plan, because you don't know anything when you're 18. You're too young. I mean, maybe, yes, you can do law, you can learn, start medicine, because it's 6 years and you grow up with this. But as a filmmaker, craft doesn't matter that much. Yes, you can learn how to push buttons, you can learn how to operate a camera, you can learn the craft of filmmaking. But what's the most important thing is to be a complex human being, to be an adult. And obviously I'm not saying I'm an adult, I know, because as an artist you keep growing up until you die, basically. But at 18 you have nothing to say. So I was lucky enough to realize that, and I even told my parents I'm going to go to law temporarily. That's it. I'm going to go to law, finish law school, and then switch immediately to cinema. During law school, 80% of my time was reading about film, I remember to the French Cultural Institute was very important to me at that time in Yash. And I think it's important to other people right now. Going to the British Council, reading every book about cinema that I could get my hands on. And my plan was to study filmmaking immediately after finishing my law school. But unfortunately, I didn't get a visa for the United States. So I was delayed for a year. So my only option was to actually practice law, which I never even imagined. So I said, okay, we're going to do law for a year. What is the most interesting part of the law? So I said criminal defense attorney. Should point out that my family also has roots in law. My mother is a lawyer. My sister is a lawyer.
Very natural. It was a natural, yeah.
Exactly. And it came natural to me. So that year, going back to the second part of your question, helped me a lot. Because and I said it many times, not just for stories and plots, because people see neidentificat or unidentified, as it's now in English, or Miracle, my other film, part of the same trilogy. We'll talk about this later probably. And they do have a police and law aspect to it. But beyond that, That's why I'm saying that a filmmaker, should know the human nature, should be interested in human nature. I learned a lot during that year. I didn't enjoy that year very much when I was a lawyer because I wanted to be a filmmaker. I didn't want to be stuck in courtrooms, and that's what I was doing, 9 to 5 every day. But empathizing with my clients, and those are hard people to empathize. Being a criminal defense attorney, you have to defend thieves and rapists and people who took an axe and cut somebody's arm literally. So as a lawyer, you have to be on their side, and that experience informed a lot of my screenwriting later on, because no matter what your characters do, they are all humans, and you have to take their side. So you write this scene, you have to take the side of this character, then you have to take the side of that character, then you have to take the side. So you have to understand all of them on a human level. So this experience helped me emotionally, psychologically, to become a better writer. Just like in life, you have to pay attention to everything as a filmmaker and empathize with everyone, every normal person, every crazy person you see on the street. You have to stop and pay attention, and you have to look at the world through the glasses of a filmmaker, not of a regular human being who's afraid of this or likes this or dislikes that. Filmmaker cannot have that. So to make a long story short, that year helped me tremendously, but not in terms of necessarily, yes, in terms of plot, unidentified. I knew how a police station in Pietra ניאמץ operates because I was there as a lawyer many times. I knew how policemen drink coffee, smoke by the window, how they tell jokes, and all this kind of. I put them in the film, but that experience helped me on a much higher level.
So what did you find interesting here? I mean, and how did it help to develop the character of Florin?
Mm-hmm. Well, just to backtrack a little bit, this story is co-written with a co-writer. He had the first draft of the script. I took over and I changed quite a few things. What interested me on my version, because I ended up directing it and ended up on the screen as well, were more than one thing. People think this movie is a police film, but or genre film or a thriller, and I'm sure that
there's a definition.
Yes, and it's easy, and I understand that, because people want to see a thriller, they want to see a historical movie, they want to see, but all good movies at the end are character movies. So for me, what interested me was precisely the character of Florin, somebody who you end up not liking at the end of the film, but because you spend so much time with him, and because the film is so subjective in its cinematic approach, meaning you're always with him, every single scene is centered around Florin. You understand the inner mechanism, you understand the struggles, you understand. So even if by the end you really want to keep your distance from the character, you understand him. So I want to create that relationship. One of the many things I was trying to do with this movie, the relationship between the audience and Florin, where you don't know exactly where he stands. You are strangely attracted to him simply because you know he has a plan. The way you discover him, an overworking cop who really wants to solve a case that nobody wants to solve, and your relationship with him step by step changes. I'm not going to say a lot because I don't know who's going to see the film after they hear me talking.
Not to make spoilers, but okay. Yes. Now, according to what I've seen so far from your movies, and you have great ones, I must say, it seems like it's a bit of an interest of yours to show some aspects that has to do with the Romanian society. What attracts you there? What is important? I mean, you live in New York, you observe different kind of life. It's different, no matter how we look at it. But at the end of the day, your movies talk about home. So yes. How does it all evolve?
Probably subconsciously, because it's true, I've been living in New York for 22 years. in a strange way, I came here at 25, so I'm not an American. I'll never be an American. I've always been a Romanian who moved to New York. And in Romania, I'm always the Romanian who comes to visit every summer and every winter. But, you know, at least I come to visit. I come to 2-3 months in the summer, 3 weeks in the winter. So I'm still, number one, I have to say I'm very close to Pietra and home, absolutely. But the more important point for me is if a movie is trying to primarily talk about home, meaning Romanian society, or then it will quickly turn into a PhD thesis. It will quickly turn into a transparent film, and you realize, oh, the director is trying to attack this or that. So I wasn't trying to attack anybody, even though some people said this, or it's commenting on the police brutality, let's say, in Romania and things like this. But for me, number one, going again to your previous question, is character. So if you're truthful to the character, if you're truthful to the circumstances of the character, if you're truthful to the inner mechanisms, to the obsessions, to the loves, not unidentified, but in any movie, and you care about the authenticity of the character and the place where the character is, it's impossible not to talk about society. But it almost comes as an afterthought. The movie is like a carriage, you know, the carriage pulls the movie forward. It talks about the character, and in the background, it carries another cart, let's say, and that cart is the society. Ideally, unidentified, if you theoretically would remake it anywhere, in Bolivia, Australia, in Russia, not Russia, now I'm opening another can of worms, but you know, in China, in Mexico, the core of the film stays the same, because we're talking about human nature. We're talking about somebody who is doing things for a reason, and we understand him. And obviously the details, the locale, the location, the authenticity of the small parts of the story would be authentic to Mexico or Peru or South Africa.
Okay.
And you have to pay attention to that, obviously. I know I'm making a movie in Pietra, and I'm not making a movie in... So you're trying to hit the universal part of the stories and be authentic to the details. But I never start with, I'm going to make a movie about the Romanian society. I always say I'm going to make a universal movie.
It's an outcome.
Exactly. And it comes naturally. I don't even think about it, I have to say. I don't think about it. It just comes. For example, I didn't think to make the police station as authentic as possible. I said, these are my characters, my cops, my policemen. I want to make them authentic. A lot of policemen in Romania came and said, this is the most authentic police movie they ever saw, the way they interact in the car when they talk, the way the police station works. So it's a byproduct. It's never the result, but if you're truthful to the characters, the byproduct comes as well.
Okay, so a question that is natural now. You live where you live. Why not make movies in the States? Why go to Romania, where it's harder in all perspective, and insist of making a movie there? Because you said this story could be taken to any place in the world, so it could be in the States as well.
And by the way, a lot of people told me in America that I should remake Unidentified in America as well, because you can switch a few elements and the movie would still make sense. Well, I'm offering a different take, and I would say it's much easier to make movies in Romania, actually.
Okay.
I've been proposed many projects, both feature films and TV shows here, but as a director, you have almost zero control. I won't say you don't have control at all, but in almost all the projects, it's almost impossible to change the script, and I always work on the script the whole time. Second, you cannot make a movie unless the producers get certain actors that they ensure a return on the capital. Everything is private here. In Romania, we can open up another philosophical discussion, because some people might disagree, but everything is public. So you go with the government funds that, leaving the problems of the public funding aside, it gives you as an artist complete freedom. So I can write on the script and have them anyhow. I can work on them even during filming. Sometimes I work on them. I can cast the actors that I want. I can work with the editor that I want. I can choose anything. So I love the process. That's what being a filmmaker. You do something that expresses yourself. Here, I got many offers to direct this episode of this TV show, this feature film, but almost always with huge constraints on the side. If the project, I have an agent here, if the right project, and I told them, comes along with enough freedom, I would be interested in it. If not, then I would love to keep teaching. And I teach the new generation of filmmakers here that are already making movies in America. And hopefully I instill in them some independence in their thinking and not just craft. And I'm very happy to make movies in Romania where I have this freedom to lead the process the way I do. But I'm not saying no to anything. Being a filmmaker.
It's amazing what you just said, because if I were writing a story for the paper now, this would be my headline. It's a scoop, you know. I mean, considering what Romania represents and all the difficulties, to say that it's easier because you have more freedom to do a movie in Romania, it's really a surprise in many ways. Now,
even artistically, let's leave finances aside. Even artistically, I can take, for example, Miracle, the next movie, is shot on only 42 shots. Very hard. I would be hard pressed to say somebody would accept to give me money to make a movie only of 42 shots and experiment with form or unidentified, for example. So in Romania, not only me, but all directors can experiment and discover new ways of expressing themselves. In America, you have to shoot it the way people are used to seeing movies, so you have less artistic incentives.
Which is very interesting, because this explains a bit the difference between us as audience who are used all over the world, but we are used to see American movies exactly as they come. And I don't talk especially the blockbuster and the hits. American movies, and then you go and see European movies or Romanian movies, and they are something else. And you need a different perspective, a different patience to realize how special they are and how the rhythm is different. And what you just said emphasizes that point exactly. As someone who writes and directs and produces, in which place of these three you feel more natural, you feel in your best? You
directing and editing will be, I would add a fourth thing here, because you're actually producing. I did produce a lot, and I still produce here in the New York, on the East Coast, not in Hollywood. Yet again, because there is more freedom here, a little bit more than there's none almost in Los Angeles. I usually produce with friends, so I'm not aiming for a producing career. I'm just, because of my experience or whatever reasons, I'm trying to help younger friends and make their movies. And not only in America, in Peru, I co-produce, in France. But it's not for me. Producing, I do it for fun. And sometimes it's interesting to be on sets to see how other directors work. But for me, writing, directing, editing is what you do, because that, again, going back to what I said before, there
is the creation.
Put your fingerprint on it. Yes. So that's why I love editing. Editing is the last. Editing, sound design is the last thing where you're really writing. Editing is actually rewriting the film. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Now, what does the stay in the States due to your passion to tell a story, either it's an American story or a Romanian one? Does it affect you in any way?
Living in America?
Yes.
Yeah, it affects you and makes you who you are, actually, because, I feel different. When I'm in פיאטרה, I feel a bit different. When I'm in New York, I feel different. And like I said, a filmmaker is part of the world they live in. I go out the window, the images I see, let's forget about the emotions and psychology, the images that I see that come through my eyes and, reach my retina, in some way they affect me. They make me who I am. So obviously I'm thinking of stories in a different way. Maybe I have an inner rhythm that is affected by living in such a crazy city as New York. And I feel that when I go to Romania, and פיאטרה is even smaller than it used to be when I grew up. Those used to be 120,000. Now it's 70,000 because so many people left. By the way, including Jewish population. When I grew up in the 80s, there was quite a lot of the Jewish population there. And I live in an apartment block that used to be a neighborhood of Jewish houses. And I have many friends. But anyway, I'm digressing here. But so when I go to Pietra, it's a small town and it's far away even from Bucharest or Cluj or other big towns. So my rhythm is different. The way I write my scripts are different. The way I think, there's a lot more nature. So yeah, absolutely. You are a prisoner of who you are. And if I didn't come to New York, I would have been a different filmmaker. I'm almost sure about that. So it really puts a thumb on you, the kind of life you live. I love New York because I love the university. I was a student at Columbia University. Now I teach for 12 years. And I'm teaching today, actually, in 2 hours. So I have to go there. And I'm already thinking about what my students, they made movies, so I have to go and see them. And my class is very diverse. I have students from all over the world, including from Israel. So I have students from, Mexico, Peru, Poland, Israel, Romania. I have a Romanian student right now in my class. So it keeps you young. It keeps your mind working because you're helping their movies. You're fixing their scripts. You're working on their edits. So it's impossible. Your mind keeps working. It's like a muscle that is being exercised. So when
all the time.
Exactly, absolutely all the time. So that's why I love teaching. You go home and your mind is still working on your own projects, but it's already, it's up and running all the time, every day.
Yes. And can you tell us something about your next projects?
Yes, absolutely.
I want to know what to bring to our next editions.
Well, I hope maybe Miracle next
yes,
year.
Definitely.
And why do I say this? Because Unidentified is only the first movie of a trilogy, of a planned trilogy that takes place in Pietra. I always wanted to make a series of 3 films that take place in a small town. Why not make it in Pietra, which I know very, very well. So Unidentified is the first film. Miracle is the second film. And I'm currently working on the 3rd film right now that shot next year. So there are 3 separate stories. You can appreciate every movie without seeing the other ones. But just like in Balzac's the human comedy, the stories are separate, but the location is exactly the same, and the characters, they
relate on a certain level.
Yeah, they're not only relate, they're exactly the same. So the main character in this movie becomes a secondary character in the other movie, or becomes a tertiary character sometimes in the background. But if you see the movies at relatively, short amounts of time, then you recognize, all these characters appear in all the movies. So it's just the same universe, but 3 different stories. So even if you don't see a movie, you can still appreciate the other one.
Now you talked as an American.
Yes.
Something of that.
Marketing my next.
Yes, exactly. Okay, we bought it, but we'll wait for the final outcome, of course, to bring it here. And as a person who visits the biggest film festivals in the world, do you have a favorite one? You can tell us something interesting about what happened there?
Yeah, I've been to many festivals. Let's see if I have. What I love about festivals is I don't go and see movies. A lot of filmmakers go to festivals to see movies, but for me, I have to go to my film, so to do a Q&A. But other than that, I'm taking long walks, or sometimes I ask the festival to prolong my stay for another 3-4 days. So I love exploring. Again, a filmmaker needs to expand his or her mind and learn new cultures, be very careful how people interact, how people talk. And so everywhere I go, first of all, I'm trying to extend my stay a little bit, and a week, because a week is like a normal, you go to Cairo. For Cairo, I stayed even more. Not that I loved Cairo, of course, but I stayed there for 10 days, even though my film only played twice, so I should have stayed for 2 days, let's say. But I love and just spending time and getting to know the people and walking around. I wouldn't pick one. I would pick one for short films because I don't want to upset anybody. And Savannah Film Festival in Georgia. So I remember we stayed in a hotel that was from the 1800s. They put all filmmakers, short filmmakers and big filmmakers together. So I remember that was when I was a student, 25 years ago. No, not 22, 22 years ago, 21 years ago. I had breakfast with Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones as a student in my second year. So I love how that festival treated everyone equally, and Savannah is obviously very beautiful, and my first contact with the South. So it was a good experience. But I've been traveled everywhere, and I love even Moscow, which was so dark and gray. You know, I was stunned at how, you know, I didn't feel comfortable there, and I'm talking 10 years ago. But still, to spend a week there and just discover how people walk, how people talk, how, you know, it's interesting.
We should have this conversation after you visit Israel, and it's interesting what kind of things you will absorb from here. So I hope to see you soon at our festival, and I will address our audience so they can be convinced it's very good to come and see your movie. הסרט לא מזוהה, יוקרן בסינמטקים השונים ברחבי הארץ. אני מזמינה אתכם להיכנס לדף הפייסבוק של הפסטיבל, פסטיבל הקולנוע הרומני בישראל, מהדורת 2023, והמכון הרומני לתרבות תל אביב, יחד איתי, מצפים לראות אתכם באולמות, ואני מקווה שספקתם כמה דברים מאוד מעניינים מהשיחה עם בוגדן. בוגדן, thank you very much, and we'll see you on your next movies. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, and I want to thank everybody who comes and see my film, obviously. I'm very honored to show it in Israel.
Okay, thank you.